you need to see this. It's
something that'll change the world and human life as we know it.
He knows. He's seen the light.
When Monty talks, it's painful.
Monty, you have been so instrumental in kind of pointing me in the right direction. And
it was about looking at your character defects in spirituality.
It's the integration of clinical practices with the 12 steps.
It's an absolute pleasure. He certainly knows a lot of people. He's got a lot of energy, and sometimes when you don't have so much energy, he picks you up and carries you.
Having the Monty man there certainly helps.
This is one of the places that is about the business of the solution.
The views expressed on this special broadcast of the Take 12 radio show do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting or its affiliates. KHLT is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
Now here's that guy who's getting less popular minute by minute, your host, the Multi-Man.
Well, greetings one and all. Welcome to another broadcast here at Take12Radio.com. Welcome to the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show, broadcasting here at Take12Radio.com on your internet dial, and also broadcasting now at on the Bill Post Radio Network at BillPost.com. If you're listening on Take 12 Radio, I encourage you to check out BillPost.com. I broadcast 11 a.m. to noon, Monday through Friday. At BillPost.com. You just click on the live streaming feed, 11 to noon, or just stay right here at Take12Radio.com. Welcome to the show, and we want to just give a shout out to Bill Post and thank him again for his this gracious opportunity he's given us to help share the message of experience, strength, and hope for the number one health crisis in our world, and that is addiction. My guest this day, Thursday, is Debbie Perkins. Now, Debbie has a website called realintervention.com, and we're going to be talking about that. But before we do that, we're going to be talking a little bit about Debbie's story. Now, I want you to imagine this. 6 years of age, molested, and was given alcohol. You know, maybe this is you. Maybe you can identify with it. You were given alcohol by your abuser to put you in a position where you can be molested. You went through hell, and Debbie, this happened to her. But this isn't the only thing that's happened to her. She was told that if she ever told anybody about the molestations, that this guy would do it to her sister as well. She was a full-blown drug addict by the age of 10, and she was born into a very dysfunctional family. She says her dad beat her mom a lot, and her own codependency took off with a vengeance. She's experienced 3 prison terms and well over 30 arrests, and both of her parents committed suicide. She was raped and gave birth to a beautiful daughter who is now her pride and joy. And on top of all of that, her ex-boyfriend tried to kill her. Now, here's the thing, folks. We don't know what's going on next door, do we? We don't know what's happening on our street, in our neighborhood. These things go on way too often. It's all too common. But not everybody is willing to come forward and share their story, and then besides sharing their story, coming back and doing something about the addiction issue, about the molestation issue, about helping other people to recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. She's also a nationally certified interventionist and a life coach. She works with teens, and she's co-authored a book called Dare to Be Authentic. Debbie Perkins is my guest. Welcome, Debbie, to Take 12 Radio.
Thank you so much, Monty. It's such a pleasure to be on your show. I listen to it all the time. You're an amazing man with such strength. I'm just very blessed to be a part of it.
Well, thank you for the kind words. That's very, very nice. And you've been listening for a long time. And it's taken me quite a while to get back to you to get you on the show, but better late than never, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, okay. We know, you and I know, and many of the listeners know, that those of us who have lived with, personally been afflicted with alcoholism or drug addiction, isn't necessarily because we were raised on the toilet backwards or anything was going on that was wrong. I mean, I came from a home that was very functional. Everybody did everything right, and I still fell into alcoholism and drug addiction. But in many cases, there is some terrible stuff going on, and you certainly experienced really a living hell. When did this all start?
Well, when I was 6 years old, first of all, my dad was very abusive towards my mom, and she got into a very heavy depression, I think, due to it early on. I just, when you're 6 years old, you don't know. What I always thought was that functional, and I always thought that everybody's family was like mine, that it was normal for your dad to beat on your mom. It was normal for your dad to get drunk and have parties, and, everybody was abusive, and I just thought everybody's life was like that. I didn't know any different. I also had neighbors that the mother was the same way, so I just thought this was the normal occurrence, and this is the way life was. But I also learned early on that life wasn't easy, and I learned very early to keep secrets. Nobody ever talked about the abuse that was going on. My mom would certainly tell her parents that she ran into doors. And so I learned early on that you keep secrets and you keep them well.
Yeah.
And due to those secrets is what, ultimately led to a lifetime of addiction.
Yeah. You bet. And what exactly did the substances that you abused do for you? Did they numb the pain?
It absolutely, in the beginning, it just I tried to forget, and as long as I didn't have to feel it, deal with it, think about it, it was okay. It was when I wasn't drinking, or which led to other substances along the way, that my life was so dysfunctional I couldn't operate without using, because I never told anybody about all this abuse that was going on.
Right.
And every time that I would get sober, depression would kick in, and I just didn't know how to deal with life on life's terms.
And so how old were you when you abused your first substance?
Well, after I was given alcohol, somebody introduced me to marijuana. And by the time I was 10, I was drinking and smoking pot on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Yes. And by the time I was 17, I was a full-blown crack addict.
And so the consumption of the substances started at 6 under an involuntary method, because when you're a minor, your brain isn't developed to the point where you can distinguish right from wrong and make the right decisions, and that went on for a while, and then by the time you did become an adult, by all intents and purposes, it was too late. You were a full-blown addict alcoholic. True?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
When you're that early on in age, you don't realize, that, the first time that you pick up could lead you into, a lifetime of misery. You don't realize. You don't think that, I'm never going to be a drug addict. That's not what kids think early on, and they have no idea the direction that they could be heading into.
We know that, and it's been proven that 1 in 5 people already have an addictive bent before they ever put a substance into their bodies. And so they could be bebopping along life for years, never touch anything, and introduce alcohol, for instance, and boom, they've already, because of genetics, they're already addicted. And people think this is a choice. You weren't 27 years old and decided I'm going to go get drunk. You were 6 years old. You had no choice. This wasn't something that you decided to do, and you were being irresponsible and decided to go out and abuse drugs and alcohol. It was forced upon you, and then you were one of the 1 in 5, and your metabolism didn't process it like a normal temperate drinker would, or even an alcohol abuser. And here you are stuck in the position of being an active addict and alcoholic at no fault of your own. Did this launch forth in your life? Have you ever been told, well, you were just irresponsible, you just weren't thinking right?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
And because I never told anybody, nobody in my family could understand why I would just steady ruin my life. I mean, I've always thought that I kept the secret well, but everybody around me knew early on that I was using and using a lot. They couldn't control me. I couldn't control myself.
Sure.
I've had so many people try to get me sober, and the person who's in active addiction has to dig deep because it's got to come from them.
Yeah.
I just never knew that.
3 prison terms, 30 arrests. My goodness, girlfriend.
Lonnie, I put myself in so many positions along the way that I shouldn't be alive today. I would run with the worst of the worst. I would pick the worst men in the world. I do have 2 children, and I was never married. I would always pick guys that were worse off than me, and that way my addiction wasn't so bad. And every time that my addiction mentality would tell me, Debbie, just keep going. You're not going to get caught. And I would always get caught. I would get arrested. But all I wanted to do was just not feel. I didn't want to deal with life, not on life's terms. I didn't have a clue how. I learned early on that, all I knew was how to stay numb. That's what I wanted to do. And it took all those arrests and all those prison terms to make me the person that I am today, because nobody could make me quit, and I really shouldn't be alive today to tell my story.
Right. And
that's how I know I'm blessed spiritually. I have an amazing God that looked out for me, because I should not be here today to tell my story.
Yeah. Wonderful. Absolutely. All right, we're going to take our first break. More with my guest, Debbie Perkins. Her website is realintervention.com. Debbie has a motto. We're going to tell you what that is when we come back. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Hey, this is the Monty Man at Take 12 Recovery Radio. For way too long, the faith community and church leadership has had a misunderstanding of what addiction and recovery is really all about. Well, it's time we clear up some issues. Recovery Life presents Understanding Addiction and Recovery, an informational workshop focused on educating the faith community, clergy, lay people, and church leadership on the problem and solution of alcoholism and addiction. Friday nights, 7 to 9 p.m. at Oak Creek Christian Center, 5775 Columbus Street Southeast, Albany, Oregon. Gender-specific recovery life groups and support meetings for friends and families will form during the workshops. For more information, visit recoverylife.org. Recovery Life, a community outreach for the Willamette Valley in cooperation with Oak Creek Christian Center.
Men, women, and their families experience tremendous pain and suffering due to the struggles they face from substance abuse and its co-occurring mental health challenges. They need to find a safe place for peace and healing. Therapia Addiction Healing Center was born out of a deep desire to provide that safe and powerful healing environment. Therapia exists to help people recover from addictions by developing and maintaining healthy, meaningful relationships with God, self, and others. To speak with an addiction specialist, call 1-855-652-4325. That's 1-855-652-4325. Or visit our website at www.therapia.net. Therapia Addiction Healing Center, restoring lives one step at a time.
He's a little crazy, but then again, you already knew that.
I got in like 3 fights when I was in grade school. All 3 of them were with the bully. We all know who they are. They're always a little bit bigger, they kind of smelly, and we duke it out. And after he beat the snot out of me, I'd say, "You come back tomorrow and I'll give you more of that."
It's the Bill Post Radio Show. Bill Post Radio Show. Weekdays at noon.
Well, welcome back, my friends, to another fine episode here at Take 12 Radio at take12radio.com on your internet dial. Also broadcasting on the Bill Post Radio Network at billpost.com. And you can check out the live feed at billpost.com, 11 a.m. to noon Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday, for the Monty Man and Take 12 Radio. I have a variety of shows for you, ranging from treatment professionals to recording artists, to authors, and to people that are providing a service like Debbie Perkins is, to just the regular ragamuffins like you and I, doing this thing one day at a time. Well, Debbie Perkins is my guest. Her website is realintervention.com. I encourage you to write that down and check it out, because due to time, of course, we don't have enough time on this show to explain everything about her website, but we're going to be talking about some of that. Now, listen, I promise to tell you what Debbie's motto is. I really like this. Her motto is, I cannot live dirty and stay clean. Debbie, what's that all about?
Well, what I learned in my road to recovery, which was very long and hard, was that, it was one thing to put down the drugs. It was a whole other thing to keep them down, because I've been very blessed enough to start working with addicts and alcoholics very early in recovery. And in my recovery, the lying, the stealing, the cheating, the conniving, the manipulating, all of that comes along with addiction, because in addiction, you learn how to get what you want, when you want it, and how you want it.
Sure.
And once I got sober, I had to figure out how to stop doing all that stuff. I mean, I could lie the drop of a dime, because that's what I did. That's what I knew. I knew how to manipulate to get what I wanted. And when I was sober for a year at least, I still didn't feel good about myself. I still had all these holes inside of me that I really didn't know how to feel. And it's because I was still doing all the things that I learned in addiction. And I had to stay proud of me, because I knew that the little things were going to take me back to the big things, and then the big things were going to get me high, because I still felt bad about myself, because I was still doing all the things that I was doing in addiction. I was just not using. So I started praying, and I would just hit my knees every day, and because I never knew how to live. All I knew was how to manipulate people to get my way and to lie to them about all my things that I had done wrong. And in the 12 steps of recovery, when you're working your steps, you have to write out all the things that you did wrong and try to make amends where you could. And there was so much in my past. I can't tell you how many 4 steps later.
Yeah.
I finally realized that, I had to learn how to live life and be proud of who I was. And it took a lot of work to stop doing all the lying and the cheating and the stealing, and to stay proud of me on a daily basis. Today I know how to say I'm sorry to people, because I was beating kids up in kindergarten. My parents couldn't understand why I was such an angry child. And I had all this anger inside of me that I didn't know how to make go away. And it was through the 12 steps that actually taught me how to live life and be happy and have a kind of peace in me and fill the holes that I had in me for so long.
Debbie, let me ask you this: in your experience, have you run into people that balk at the 12 steps and that criticize the whole 12-step recovery thing?
Oh, absolutely, Monty. I'm coming up on 5 years sober.
Yeah, congratulations.
And after I was a couple years sober, I opened a halfway house for women, because what I knew was that I should not have been out there in my addiction for so long. Had I had somebody I felt like me could go to them and say, because I kept that secret. Number one, I kept the secret about being molested all my life. Because once I got older, that secret kept me using. I stayed in the victim mentality. My mentality was, if you've been through what I went through, you would too. And I had to learn how to become a survivor. So what I did was I opened a halfway house for women, and I really started working with a lot of treatment centers in Palm Beach County. And what I did was I just sent out multitudes of pamphlets that I had made myself, and I started working with a boatload of treatment centers in the area, and a number of them, number one, did not work in the 12 steps. I had one lady, and I'm just not going to name the name of them,
right,
told me, I went there and told her, look, this person does not have a sponsor. They're staying up all night, sleeping all day, because the girl wanted to move out. And I went all the way to the treatment center, and I explained to them she is not ready. And the counselor point blank said to me, Debbie, you put too much stock in sponsorship. And I'm living proof that if you work a program, you work through the steps. What I know is addiction is a daily reprieve. And I almost closed down my halfway house because I thought, none of these treatment centers care. I know what it took me to get sober. And I finally, by the grace of God, because I have helped so many women become productive members of society, I have got girls in college, but I finally met this one lady that was truly my gift from God. And she pointed me in the right direction. She is actually the owner of Angels Recovery in Wellington, Florida. And what I do know is there's no perfect rehab. But when I tell you, when I have a problem, I go to this lady, and she fixes it. If there needs a certain therapist there for trauma or whatever, she hires them. I have never seen or been so blessed. And that's when my success rate went up in spades. Because if you don't believe in the 12 steps of recovery, if you don't apply it in your life, you will not stay sober. And this, we even created, because I'm in college now, and I see all these college students that come to class messed up, and I talked to Tara about it from Angels Recovery, and she actually helped me create this thing called Gen C for Recovery, which means Generation C, get connected, stay connected. And she even started working hours with college students during the day around their college classes, because it was school that helped me to feel better about myself. Because I needed purpose, and it gave it to me. And I'm just so blessed, because the sad part about it, Monty, is there's so many treatment centers out there. They don't care. They don't work the 12-step program. They don't care about the individual. They don't apply the 12 steps whatsoever. And Angels Recovery has been my gift from God.
And
that's what I can tell you.
And I want to assure the listeners of something that's very important, because I'm on the same page with you with this. One of the things that we are very adamant about and very careful about is the treatment providers that do help sponsor Take 12 Radio. We don't take any of them on unless they use the 12-step model, number one, and number two, they treat the whole person. Body, mind, and spirit. That means nutrition. That means medically. That means spiritually. If they don't do that, we don't advertise them on our station, because you're right. There's a lot of folks out there that don't use that model, and they're helping people, but they're not helping the true alcoholic and addict, the person that has the obsession of the mind and the allergy of the body. That person, you're right, won't stay sober unless they do this thing. And the reason we know that, listeners, is because for over 70 years, the 12-step model has still to date been the most successful. They track people from the time they start, from the time they actually finish their first formal working of the 12 steps to death. And they have found that this is the most successful model and most successful method of drug and alcohol treatment, as well as other addictions, by the way, when it is done properly, not when it's done the way man has had a tendency to turn it into as of the last 15 years, but when it's done the way the founders put it together. And so, boy, am I ever on the same page, because we've got a lot of people out there that aren't alcoholics and addicts. They're heavy drinkers, they're alcohol abusers, they're drug abusers, but they're not the 1 in 5. And they can stay clean and sober by making a proper decision, by making a temperance pledge, by saying, well, I'm tired of getting arrested, so I'll just stop. And they grow up. But that's not you and me, is it?
No, it's not. And that's one of the reasons why I have so much respect for your radio station, is absolutely you care about the person physically, spiritually, and the 12-step program. Because without the 12-step program, it's my daily reprieve. And there's so many treatment centers out there that don't care about these kids. I'll give you a for instance. I got this kid, I did an intervention on a kid today. And when I picked him up, he had a bag full of medication, a bag full. Okay, and when I questioned this kid, have you been on all this medication all your life? No, the treatment center put me on it. You know, and I took the bag in the Angels Recovery, and they immediately took the bag from him and reassessed him, and then they're teaming him out to where he's going to get the help that he needs, because you can't just put down all these medications. You know, you have to be monitored.
You got to be.
And I hurt for this child. It broke my heart, because he's just off and running on another addiction that he wasn't on when he first tried to get into recovery.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Okay, we got to take our next break, but I want to say we're not suggesting, listeners, that medication isn't helpful and isn't needed sometimes. What we are telling you, though, is when you get somebody who is, just first gotten into recovery, and they get diagnosed with depression and anxiety and all that kind of, well, of course they're depressed. Of course they've got anxiety. They've only been sober for a week. I mean, you got to detox them before you can make a proper diagnosis. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen nearly as enough. Okay, folks, don't go away. More with my guest, Debbie Perkins, when we come back. Serenity Springs Recovery Center, located on the beautiful east coast of Florida. A unique facility that is committed to providing exceptional individual care in small group settings while utilizing their experienced and dedicated clinical and support staff of licensed therapists and doctors. Visit their website, serenityspringsrecovery.com, or call 386-423-4540. Serenity Springs, making a life-changing investment into your recovery.
We understand that having a loved one caught in the grips of an addiction is a powerless position to be in, and we understand this on a very personal level. We have been there ourselves. Our own families have experienced exactly what you are feeling now. The good news is we are here to direct you in finding a way out. We are Freedom Interventions, providing the direction necessary to get the help for your addicted loved one. Your family has specific needs. We can determine the best approach for your specific circumstances. If an intervention is needed, we will provide the direction required to safely and effectively accomplish the goal of recovery for all. To begin the recovery process for your loved one, call toll-free at 888-762-7557. That's 888-762-7557. And visit our website at freedominterventions.com. Freedom Interventions, providing drug and alcohol interventions and a continuum of care services to clients and their families.
Origins Recovery Centers provides integrated inpatient treatment for substance abuse and co-occurring disorders. At Origins, clients receive expert medical, clinical, and spiritual care individually designed for their needs. Our clients leave Origins with the foundation upon which they will build the rest of their lives. Call now to speak with an admissions specialist. Our toll-free number is 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
Yes, indeedy. Welcome back. You make me happy with the things you do. Thank you, Stevie Nicks. We have caused a lot of unhappiness in our circles in the past. And a lot of that is due to the fact that human beings, by nature, are selfish and self-centered. And that is not something that's unique to alcoholics or drug addicts or sex addicts or food addicts or overspenders or overeaters. Everybody is selfish and self-centered. It's all we think about. We wake up in the morning, the first person we look at is in the mirror. There I am. It's the Monty Man. Hello, good morning. And I'm all I think about all day long. Do you have that problem, Debbie, sometimes?
Absolutely, Monty. We're human by nature, and what I do know that my disease of addiction was very selfish. And I wanted to ask you something else, Monty. Have you ever heard of the addict's mom?
The addict's mom? No.
What it is this, the biggest problem with some of us trying to get sober is our family.
Oh, that's right.
They enable us. They want us to get better.
Oh, you betcha.
They don't understand the addiction. And I was so fortunate enough to meet this lady named Barbara Ciozzo, and she's the founder. It's a place where parents can go and talk about together. It gives a voice for parents that have kids in addiction, because addiction was such a dirty thing. Nobody wanted to talk about it.
Right.
And I was blessed enough to meet this lady, and it's a free organization for any parents that want to put voice to their addiction and learn how to stop enabling their kids to use and to find healthy ways to vent and have a voice and not lose themselves behind their kids' addiction.
Well, I was gonna say we are really big on teaching people about codependency and how to not enable. We're really big on that. So if you would email me her link and information, I would really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And there she actually just started a chapter all over the United States. So there is a chapter in every state across the country where parents that have kids in active addiction or early recovery can learn the do's and don'ts and be able to vent or have voice. Or this lady helps people find rehabs when people have no finances. I mean, truly a gift. I'm going to sit down with lunch with her on the 17th. We had a picnic with her. We had a walk in Broward County, Florida. And I took all of the kids that are in recovery to show parents that kids do recover, that we can have a life, and we can become productive members of society. And it was just amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah, you bet.
I will definitely send you that link.
Last week we did a show with the teen band Relentless. And just proof once again that not all kids are drinking and drugging, that a lot of kids are getting well, getting in recovery, and a lot of kids just don't do that. People think, oh, well, kids are lost today and everything. Well, yeah, there is a lot of that. But you know what? The truth of the matter is most kids don't drink. Most kids don't use narcotics. And then the ones that do, there's a lot of them that are getting help. There's good news, isn't there?
There's absolutely good news. And the amazing thing about addiction, Monty, is that, people are coming aware it's just not a dirty infliction on a family. It's a disease. And, there is help out there. I'm finally getting involved with a nonprofit. It's for people that don't have any money to help their kids get into it. We're just putting it together. It's called the Angel Watch Foundation. And there's such a need for people in our lives that are productive and that care about our society. It's just not, there's some people in the world, they don't have the finances to put their kids through treatment.
That's right.
And then sometimes when they do pick a treatment, they're not in it for the right reasons. So
yeah. I'm
so blessed in my life to get to where I'm at, to be able to help so many women and men. I stay involved. I go to, and it's actually the meetings. Once you get into treatment, they point you in the right direction, because if you teach them the 12 steps, and they can become productive members of society. I actually, from 3 prison terms and over 30 felonies, nobody thought that I would ever become anything in my life. And I'm fixing to graduate with my bachelor's, President's List, Dean's List, Phi Theta Kappa.
Wow.
They nominated me the non-traditional student of the year, and I was like, well, what does non-traditional mean? And they said old. I was like,
yeah.
Thank you so much. But what an accomplishment. So when people out there, they think that people cannot recover, we can. We can.
Yeah.
And together, one day at a time, we're staying sober, and we're showing the world that this disease, like heart disease, diabetes, it's a disease, and it needs to be treated as one.
Right.
And I'm just very blessed to become a part of. I didn't know how to deal with life on life's terms for so long.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful. And I thought I had everybody beat. I thought, I have 15 felonies. You have 30. So you beat me out, girl. My buddy, the former district attorney of Lynn County, we were talking one day, and I said, "Would you look up my record for me?" And he looks it up, and he goes, "Oh my gosh!" He goes, "Is this you?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so. What do I got? Like 4 felonies?" He goes, "Are you serious? You've got 15." And I said, "I had no idea."
Well, it's funny when I put together a packet because my goal is today is to help as many people, men and women, become productive members of society.
Yeah.
And so I went down to the sheriff's office and I got as many photos as I could of all my arrests. And Monty, I never thought that my addiction was as bad as it was. I just thought that it was because of so and so I got arrested, or it was never my fault because we never want to admit even that there's a problem. And I got all these mug shots, and they're on my website, and they tell a story all by themselves. And when I go do interventions, or I'm working with parents of kids and I show them these pictures, and I explain to them, this is the reality of the disease. If you want help for your children, and I have all these kids that are in my life, and they're my kids. I love them unconditionally, and I'm just so blessed because I don't put up with a lot. I mean, they'll all tell you I'm as strict as they come, but that's how I teach them the way I was taught, the 12 steps of recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, if people would just stop enabling, stop making excuses, addiction is addiction is addiction. And if you get arrested one time, it's a problem. I'm just, I'm so blessed to recognize it now. I blamed, it was a person that I was with or whatever. And, the blame goes, I had to learn how to get mad at the disease. I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive. And the one thing that I really, really, really would like to talk about is I had to learn how to forgive. I had to learn how to forgive the person that abused me when I was a child. And that is not easy,
Right.
When you're in addiction, you do a lot of stuff, a lot of damage. People have done a lot of damage to you. But hanging on to all that anger was not productive for me.
No.
And I had to learn how to forget that man that abused me. And when I finally put voice to being abused, that was the beginning of my journey into recovery. And when people kept saying, "Debbie, you got to forgive, and that's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
But once I did, my life just turned around. I stopped being a victim, and I learned how to be a survivor. And that's why I know that people can recover, and I do believe that the reason that I went through everything that I did as a child is to become as good as I am at what I do.
Yeah.
And that's, and nobody I can get on every person's level and say, you can't tell me I don't understand. Because early in recovery, I would say, are you in addiction? Somebody would try to work with me. Are you in addiction? And I would just shut down if they said, no, you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's why us that are in recovery are so good at what we do, because we can get on their level and explain to them, what you don't understand is I do know. I do know, and I get it. But let me show you where I was.
Right.
Now let me show you where I'm at, and let me help you get there.
Yeah, amen to that. Listen, we're going to take our last break, but I want to say this really quick because there are people listening that are going, oh, you guys say it's a disease. You guys say it's an illness. We know it's not. It's a matter of choice. It's a moral issue, blah, 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 blah. I was talking to a group of people at a church here recently, and I said, okay, look, if you take the faith-based viewpoint, that all illness comes from the fall in the garden, if we take that stand, then I get it. I understand. Diabetes, cancer, everything comes from the fall. There was a time when there was no illness. Did it come from rebellion from man? Yeah, it came from the fall. Okay, so I agree with you. I agree with you. But let me ask you something, folks. For those of you who are really quick to condemn, do you treat somebody that, if diabetes came from the fall, if cancer came from the fall, do you treat people like that with the disrespect and the judgment that you have been treating addicts and alcoholics. Because I get it. I understand you're tired of getting your cars broken into. I get the fact that you sick and tired of people breaking into your house and your son coming home so drunk that he can hardly stand. I get it. I understand that. It's horrible. But let's call a spade a spade. Let's quit arguing whether it's a moral issue or an illness. Let's get to the solution. And unless you understand the problem, you will not understand the solution. And the problem is based in mental illness, it's based in genetics, it's based in an illness, just like all the other illnesses. So get over your bad self. We got to take a break. More with Debbie Perkins when we come back. There you go. There goes the opinionated 12-stepologist, the over-opinionated Monty man. We'll be right back. Listen. Do you have a loved one that is suffering from a drug or alcohol addiction and is unable or even unwilling to seek help? Well, if you've tried unsuccessfully on your own to get that individual the help they desperately need, then an intervention may be the only chance you have of saving that person's life. Here's the number I want you to call. 877-487-1599. You don't have to wait until your loved one hits bottom. By then, it could be too late. Call Broad Highway Recovery now. 877-487-1599. If not you, then who?
Let's walk through the big book. Join Chris Schroeder and the Monty Man for this in-depth journey through the basic text of Alcoholics Anonymous. As one of the most sought-after circuit speakers in the world of the 12 steps, Chris will be walking us through line by line, page by page, of this wonderful book that has meant so much to so many people who have recovered from the disease of alcoholism. If you've never studied the Big Book, or even if you have but would like a new, refreshing approach, join us here at Take12Radio.com for an exciting, educational, and spiritual look into a plan for living that can be applied and implemented into the lives of anyone who is willing to recover from alcoholism.
Addiction is the #1 health threat in our world today. It affects more people than any other malady, and yet the solution to this health crisis gets the least amount of attention. May I introduce to you a media outlet that's doing something about that. KHLT Recovery Broadcasting, home of the Take 12 Recovery radio shows, is the world's only faith-based radio station broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with the solution to the addiction problem. Visit Take12Radio.com for recovery talk and positive music, and be ready to be set free from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. That's Take12Radio.com on your internet dial. Yeah, and welcome back to Take 12 Radio, the recovery radio show that is extremely opinionated and more than often right and correct. Not because we're so smart, but because we have a power greater than ourselves that's directing our path. And we lean on that power to guide our way and not on our own understanding, because our own understanding just messes us up. I cannot live dirty and stay clean is the motto of Debbie Perkins, my guest here on a Thursday at Take 12 Radio, and also on the Bill Post Radio Network. Okay, Debbie, let's talk about realintervention.com. Tell us what's going on there and what kind of service you provide.
Well, when I was sober for several years, my only goal was to try to help people get sober and stay that way. And so I became so good at helping addicts and alcoholics that I decided that I wanted to start intervening and trying to help people get the proper help that they needed and show them the way that I got sober. My spirituality is huge, and it kept waking me up at night and telling me, Debbie, you know, I didn't come through all of this to be ashamed of who I was and where I'm at in my life now. And I knew because of all my experiences and I went through my addiction, I was capable of helping so many people. And it was just by fluke. I got a phone call from somebody, and they wanted me to come and help their child. And I did, and it happened over and over again. And every single one of them, I've never been on an intervention that I wasn't successful in. And so I decided to get nationally certified. And it was the best thing that I ever did because I am so good at it because I can get on anybody's level, and there's nothing that they can say to me that, number one, I haven't done, probably more than once. And I can show them my mug shots and explain to them, this is where you're headed. You know, you're at it. And another thing that I live by is I teach these people your addict mentality versus reality. Because forever I didn't understand when I had that monkey on my back saying, oh, Debbie, just go use today. Either your day's so bad or your day's so good. Or to just talk, because I want to get high. That's the bottom line, Lonnie. And so I had to learn all of this, and so I decided to become a nationally certified interventionist, and I'm very good at it because I can get on anybody's level and explain to them, this is where you're headed, now let me show you how to have a life. And I can show them the life that I have today. And my life is great, and I never thought that I could have this kind of peace, this kind of being able to function in this world on life's terms. And I'm just great at doing it, and I love it. It's my passion. It's my gift from God. You know, when I told you about, you know, my daughter, she was the thing that I thought was the worst thing that could ever happen to me in my life turned out to be my greatest gift.
Sure.
You know, because you get sober doesn't mean that life gets easy. That's it. I mean, I've never been married because I always picked yucky people. And when I finally got healthy, I finally met the man of my dreams, and he passed away. And what I do know is that just because you get sober, life doesn't get easy. But if you work the steps, you have productive people in your life that will help you. When he passed away, it was all my AA and NA friends that surrounded me. They got me through it. And everything that I've done in my life so far has been God-given, and I know it for what it is. And there's just one more thing that I really, really wanted to touch base on is being my humility. I know that I didn't get where I'm at in my life by myself. My spirituality carries me every single day, and I pray every morning. I hit my knees and I say, okay, who can I help today? When I keep my perspective in the right direction, including my interventions, and that's why I'm so good at what I do, because I do what I do for the right reasons. And that's what I want to tell all these treatment centers. Start doing what you do for the right reasons and make your goal to help these kids or adults have a healthy and productive life, and miracles will happen. They will just happen.
Yeah. Well, good for you, Debbie. That's excellent. And we need to be motivated by it for the right reasons. And it can be discouraging. I mean, you and I are on the front lines here. And we watch way too many people die before their time. We watch way too many families just break into pieces. And it doesn't have to be that way, and yet sometimes it is. And it can be very discouraging. So we have to keep looking up. We have to keep our eyes focused on our Creator, and remember that we're about the business of doing God's work, not our own. And if we'll do that, anybody out there that's listening that is in this field, and you're just about ready to throw your hands up and say, I'm done. Please, we get it. We understand. But don't let your emotions dictate a decision that may affect you and the help you've been giving people in the future. Calm down, take a breath. Because I get that way, Debbie. I get, gee whiz, we've been doing this thing now. We celebrated on the 5th of June. 10 years of broadcasting. We're one of the last people standing as far as recovery radio. And I think, man, where's the support? Where's the sponsorship? Where's the, and I have to remember, as was reminded to me just here today by Dr. Alan Berger, who does one of our workshops, you gotta keep reminding yourself why you're doing this. And if we can help save one person, we've done our job, haven't we?
Absolutely. And that's how we do this, one person at a time, one day at a time.
Yeah.
And, people always ask me, Debbie, how much clean time you have? And you know what, Monty, what I have is today. And today I'm going to do the best that I can with what I have and be blessed for it.
And you're doing it. You're doing it. You're giving it away. So really quick, there are people wondering right now, usually people in recovery will be asking this question: what is Debbie doing to maintain her sanity? What are you doing for you?
Every single day, when I wake up in the morning, I get on my knees and I thank God for keeping me sober the day before and to help me get through today. And I somehow I ended up every single day, almost for the last 3 years, I've helped another addict become productive members of society, and that is my goal. I'm actually so involved with Angels Recovery because I believe in what they do. They're not paying me to say this. I've worked with so many rehabs across the state of Florida and the United States, and I believe in animal therapy. I have a pet-friendly facility. I believe in love. I don't believe in boot camp. I believe that God put us on this earth for a reason, and that's to help each other. And I keep my mentality focused on staying sober and whole and healthy mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I've actually, I have been blessed with an amazing life, and the kind of life that I have today, any person that's suffering an addiction can have it. And I'm so blessed to be able to help so many people get it.
Yeah, and that's great news. That's good news. In the midst of a very dark world and a lot of bad news that we hear all the time, there is some really great news out there, and that God does care. God does love you just the way you are, just exactly how you are right now, all messed up and dirty and filthy and no self-esteem and everything's falling apart. He loves you. He loves you. And there is an answer. There is a way out. We've tried and proven it. And it has worked for thousands of people. Debbie, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show.
Monty, you're amazing. You're amazing for so many people. Your radio show is what keeps me moving and keeps me breathing, and I'm just so blessed to become a part of. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's very kind words. Well, folks, our guest has been Debbie Perkins. Her website is realintervention.com. And if you're listening on the Bill Post Radio Network, make a note of that. You can go to our YouTube page. Just go to YouTube and type in Monty Meyer, MontyMeyer. And all of our shows are up there on YouTube, along with Walking Through the Big Book with Chris Schroeder, and so much more. There's just so much information there for you. Hey, listen, my friends, don't forget, do something now that'll make the person you will be tomorrow proud to have been the person you are today. Debbie, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Monty, and have a blessed day.
You too. All right, folks. If you're listening on the Bill Post Radio Network, Bill Post is coming up next. Don't miss out. Check it out. And if you're listening at take12radio.com, don't forget to visit our archives page of all of our shows. There's just an enormous amount of resources there for you. All right. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man along with Debbie Perkins, realintervention.com. And we are wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
kitty, 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 kitty.